Hi, Mzansi. You are listening to Farmers Inside Track, proudly brought to you by Food for Mzansi. My name is Patricia Timbo, your host, and welcome to episode 557. So today we're looking at post-harvest tomato handling and how you as a farmer can improve your profitability after harvest. Of course, this episode is set to be both informative and practical as we welcome Lesego Mohube, who is a commercial vegetable producer. Lesego Mohube, welcome back to Farmers Inside Track. I'm so happy to be speaking to you again. Last time we had you as our farmer mentor. Today, you will be talking us through post-harvest tomato production, as you know, you have so much experience in this area. Welcome to the podcast. We're happy to have you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Food from Mzansi. Thank you also to you being able to be available.
So, Lesego, you are a commercial farmer. We're currently supplying, I believe it's the Joburg markets. I'm not sure if there are other markets as well, but you'll let us know. But you are also the 2025 Student Sustainability Awards winner at the South African Agricultural Awards. You won this amazing award while you were a student at Potchefstroom College of Agriculture. So you a brilliant woman in the space that you're in, clearly. But maybe for our audience and listeners who haven't heard of you, just give us like an overview of Lesego and the work that you're doing currently in the space of agriculture.
So my name is Lesego Mohube, like she stated. I'm 25 years of age. I am a vegetable farmer. I'm from the Northwest. Came to Gauteng during my third year doing well-integrated learning, and then I started my business under tunnel production with my former business partner, Boka Monare, and then we produced under the Agri Park where we did green peppers, tomatoes, and then I left the Agri Park as a student. Obviously now my term has completed, and currently I'm leasing. I think the last time we spoke, we were hoping for the contract to come in time.
And you got it.
Yes, and we got the contract. So currently we are producing carrots. So we don't do tunnels. We do now open field. So we do a lot of carrots. We do a lot of potatoes this side and onions. So currently we're doing carrots and onions for the autumn winter production as crop rotation. And then as summer comes, we'll see which crops we'll plant. But for now, we've got these two.
Amazing. I'm sure our listeners can hear you are really killing it in the space. So yeah, congratulations also on securing that lease agreement so you can go ahead with the season. But let's get right into today's topic, which is post-harvest tomato production. So of course, quality of a product is everything. So how does harvest handling and management affect market access and profitability when we're talking about tomatoes?
Post-harvest handling is now the part of the farming business. It's part of management. So that is where you as the farm owner or the farm manager now need to start being involved, because it will affect your quality, it will affect your shelf life, your food safety, and your consistency. Now, when you talk about quality, remember when you take to the market, you maybe planted with an open pollinated. I planted with an F1 hybrid. Because of the handling of the crop, your open pollinated is getting sold out and my F1 hybrid is not getting sold out. So now the quality has now decreased. You're not making money on the amount of money of seeds that you bought. Your shelf life, the damage that a crop gets, the shelf life decreases. And then the food safety, guys, it's very important, especially as farmers, even if you're not part of the SA GAP, but follow the rules of the SA GAP, because human beings actually consume our food. Now, food safety is very important. Even if you're not working towards an SA GAP, just try to download the rules and the regulations, how it is when you are an SA GAP farmer. Follow them, especially in the field. Follow them so that you can have proper consistency at the market.
Could you just explain what an SA GAP is for anyone who's listening who may not know?
So Global GAP is a certification to show that you are producing good quality food, you're producing healthy food, you're producing food that is safe. So it's a certification that you get. Usually retailers require. There's no contamination, for example, with chemicals and bacteria. There's proper washing that took place. The environment, it focuses a lot on environment and the health of how the farm is actually being operated.
So now that you have explained post-harvest handling and management, we can go into the steps. What are those steps that are required for handling crops immediately so that the quality can be preserved?
So immediately after harvesting, that is like the most critical window because those are now the first few hours. So we need to look at harvesting at the right time and at the right maturity. The harvest must be market ready. And then it's important that we harvest, especially around these times, 6:24 up until 8:30. After 8:30 this time, around the season, it's already hot. And then in the afternoons, that's the time we should harvest because it reduces field heat. It slows down the respiration and the water loss. Now, it also now takes place with the humidity. Remember when you become a vegetable farmer, humidity is very important. It is one of the most important as a farmer, especially when you're farming under tunnels with your fruit crops. And then you need to handle the crop gently. I think I once posted and said, when you're harvesting, wear gloves, use scissors, and don't throw the crops inside the crate. Rather look for crates that are smooth. Or if you know that you're in a rush, rather have 8 workers in the tunnel so that you guys are able to get out quickly and also remove the product from the field quickly, put it under the shade, and also allow for cooling to take place. I remember at the agri park, we used to clean inside the pack house. So immediately after the crop left the tunnel, it would enter into a pack house. And now there's cooling, there's ventilation. What happens? We just now wipe and then we clean.
So you mentioned humidity being important. Why is that?
High humidity because it prevents wilting. It prevents a lot of wilting and it reduces water loss, which keeps crops firm and fresh. And also remember, these crops, we are going to package them. So the humidity is very important. Sometimes, I don't know if when you go buy a bag of carrots, there's like water inside.
Yeah.
And then someone will be like, no, it's not proper. They spoiled. No, they're fine. It's just that the packaging and the harvesting times, we were in a rush. And I think that's something that as farm owners and managers, we should look into is planning your harvest, especially if your area is very big. Be honest with yourself. Your harvesting is going to take probably a week so that things can go proper.
And then now looking at the post-harvest stage, how can farmers improve shelf life?
I said earlier, the early harvesting, removing from the sun very quickly or removing from heat very quickly while you're busy harvesting. I do not like the storing, especially when we look at our tomatoes and our green peppers. Rather leave them in the ventilated pack house for a day or a night because you guys harvested late. And then the maintaining of the proper humidity, which is very important, and keeping everything clean. Hygiene is very important, and separate the diseased and the injured when you are packing. There's a big difference between the ones that have a disease and the ones that have been damaged because of the poor handling.
If you can maybe explain the key differences from a vegetable that is damaged from disease and damaged from handling. What is the key difference for identifying that?
Let's take throwing, right? You threw it inside the crate. It was the first tomato that you threw inside the crate. And then it has a crack. And then while it has the crack, remember when we get to the pack house, we sort. We sort that these are the mediums, the smalls, the large. And then we also sort according to damage. This has a disease. This one is damaged. There's a worm inside. And then you take the one that you threw. Now, the problem is the crate wasn't clean. Now we're going to have microbial problems. Now, when you pack that crop or that fruit with the fresh ones, it's now going to affect the rest because now we're having a microbial problem. That's why they like to say rotten potato makes all the potatoes rotten. It's because of the microbial decay. The rot spreads really quickly.
Thank you, Lesego. I think you're like this topic. You are explaining everything so clearly and so well. So now looking at losses when it comes to post-harvest handling in that stage of production, how can farmers minimize losses during post-harvest?
You have to train your workers how to handle the crops gently. And also, as a farmer, be honest that we can probably harvest a tunnel after 4 hours. That's best. And also avoid overpacking and stacking too high, especially in the boxes and in the crates. And then avoid workers sitting on crates. I understand that we get tired, but rather in the tunnels or on the field, have stools so that if someone is tired, they can just sit on the stool instead of sitting on the crate.
You would think that's something that would contribute to harvest losses. That's quite interesting.
Also, it's very important that shade immediately. So in the tunnel, it's quite advantageous because there's already a shade. But now there's a problem with heat built up. So you need to harvest very quickly so that we can get rid of the crop inside the tunnel and take it to the pack house. And then in terms of water loss, we need to maintain our high humidity. I think for certain crops, it's 85 to 95% the humidity. And then the cover produce with plastic or a damp cloth. Please do not wash your crops. There's certain crops like your tomato, your green peppers, your cucumber. Do not put them in water. It reduces the shelf life. Rather take damp cloth, you wipe, you pack. It's not like your butternuts and your potatoes where now you need to wash and you need to take out the dirt and then you need to air dry. No. The other important thing is your hygiene to reduce the microbial decay. Like we spoke about that one rotten tomato will now start spoiling and making the box become rotten. It's very important for that. And also the transportation. If you know you've overpacked, make sure that you drive properly, you've packed it properly inside the car or inside the van. Those are very important.
That's great. Looking at packaging, how do you recommend packaging when it comes to transporting tomatoes to the market? So that process, the logistics part of it, and when you're looking at post-harvest quality, what are your recommendations?
Number one, it depends on the market. Crate prices of tomatoes was high 2 weeks ago. Then boxes was low and then boxes came high. So we're playing with boxes and crates. But if we're playing with crates, it's very important that your crate is very smooth at the bottom. If it's not smooth at the bottom, rather find, if you guys know the shop, Aesops, they have these thick plastics. Put it at the bottom of your crate because it's very thick, but it's also flat. And then you put it at the bottom, and then at least the ones at the bottom have a form of security in terms of mechanical damage while you're transporting it. And number three, make sure when you get to the market, you look at them offloading. You look at them offloading. You are part of the offloading so that you don't get a call from your agent saying, you only sold 8 crates. That time you took 50 crates and you know that there was no problems with your tomatoes.
That makes a lot of sense to always have an eye on your produce from the point it leaves the farm as well to the market. I think that's important. So I suppose a farmer, their attentiveness doesn't end at harvest, essentially.
Yeah.
And then looking at the kind of support and training or post-harvest, for farmers who are interested or wanting to improve their skills when it comes to post-harvest and, just learning maybe more technical aspects of it, what kind of support is available that you know of?
I think the best option is challenge yourself by trying to apply for the SA gap. And even though you don't want it, but follow and also read articles on post-harvest training. The trainings that are there are usually on chemicals, like before harvesting, the window period of each crop. I'm not aware of the post-harvest trainings, but try to follow the SA gap rules on each crop. If you know someone who has an SA gap, for example, for spinach, ask them on advisors, how do you harvest? What do you guys wear? PPE, your times of harvesting, the washing, how many buckets of water do you guys have? There's some people, they have 3 buckets of water. There's step 1, step 2, step 3. When it reaches step 3, that's the packaging, where they'll now tie it with the rubber band and then put it aside.
So we may have covered everything, at least at the surface, of what is required with post-harvest tomato production. So I'm not sure if there's anything else that you would like to mention or we haven't touched on in the conversation so far.
The distance. If your market is very far away from you, like I said earlier, leave it for a night or for a day inside the pack house. And then make sure, because your market is far, you need to harvest during the cool hours. Remove from the field immediately and avoid bruising. Because now you are traveling a long distance, and farms, we have gravel roads, we do not have smooth tar roads. So we also need to consider that into our logistics, that it can also delay us maybe arriving in 30 minutes or arrive in 45 minutes. And it's quite one of the most important things is that the transport, depending how far you are going, I think from 4 hours plus, the truck needs to have a refrigerator. Like, you need to drive properly. Yeah, there's a lot that takes place. But if you're close by, 2 hours, 3 hours, it's okay. You drive, you drop, but make sure everything is properly packaged and no damages.
Thank you so much to Lesego Mohube, who is a commercial vegetable producer. And for more information on this topic, you can definitely visit www.foodfromzansi.co.za. And that brings us to the end of this episode. Remember to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform. That's it from myself, Patricia Tembo, our technical producer, Megan van der Vent, and the rest of #team Food from Zanzi. Thank you for listening and keep growing with us.